We all know there are two continuities in the Dragon Ball universe that take place after Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT. These two series give us very different portrayals of key characters, and one of the most debated is Vegeta. Today, I'm diving into both continuities to figure out which one, in my opinion, did Vegeta's character the most justice. Before we jump in, let's take a moment to reflect on Vegeta's journey in Dragon Ball Z, and where his character arc ends by the conclusion of the series. This context is crucial to understanding how his character should evolve in any continuation. I want to shout out Big Toon, who does an excellent job of breaking down Vegeta's story in his video. To summarize some of his points, in Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta starts as a cold and ruthless Saiyan prince, fixated on power and dominance. He's calculating, brutal, and sees even his allies as tools. But as the story unfolds, we see layers of vulnerability beneath that hardened exterior. On Namek, for example, his pride is completely shattered by Frieza, forcing him to confront his weaknesses. His tearful plea to Goku to avenge their race is one of the most raw, humanizing moments in the entire series. Fast forward to the Buu Saga, and we see a Vegeta who has evolved significantly. Life on Earth has softened him, though not entirely, and we see him wrestle with love, fatherhood, and even friendship. His internal struggle with pride and jealousy reaches its breaking point when he succumbs to Babidi's influence, but his self-sacrifice later in the arc shows just how much he's grown. For the first time, Vegeta sets aside his pride and selfish desires, choosing to die as a protector of his family and the Earth. By the end of Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta has reached a place of emotional and moral maturity. He's still prideful and competitive, but the hatred and insecurity that fueled his rivalry with Goku have largely been replaced by mutual respect. He's fighting not out of envy, but to push himself further. This version of Vegeta is the foundation for where his character should go in Dragon Ball's future. That said, deciding which series handles Vegeta better isn't as simple as picking one over the other. Both Super and GT take place at very different points in time, which affects how Vegeta is written. GT is set years after the end of Z, right after Goku finishes training Oob. Meanwhile, Super takes place just 4 years after the Buu Saga, where Vegeta delivers his iconic "You are number one" speech. These different starting points make the comparison a bit more challenging. So how do we determine which version of Vegeta comes out on top? I'll be judging both based on 4 main criteria: character development, how well does each series build on Vegeta's growth from Z, particularly beyond his rivalry with Goku; consistency, does Vegeta's portrayal align with the trajectory set for him at the end of Z; relationships, how are his connections with other characters explored; do we see new sides of Vegeta through these interactions; impactful moments, does the series give Vegeta memorable, defining moments that further evolve his character? With those guidelines in mind, let's dive in and see how Super and GT handle Vegeta in their own ways. Both Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT make genuine efforts to develop Vegeta's character beyond his rivalry with Goku, offering distinct takes on how he evolves as both a person and a warrior. In Super, one of Vegeta's most surprising developments is his relationship with Kaba. Kaba looks up to him as a mentor, and Vegeta responds with a blend of tough love and genuine care, teaching him about Saiyan pride and strength. This dynamic highlights how far Vegeta has come from the ruthless warrior we met in Z. It's a fitting evolution for his character, and while this relationship is explored in the Universe 6 Saga and Tournament of Power, there's a lot of potential for it to be expanded further, particularly in the manga. Another area where Super does a good job is portraying Vegeta's role as a family man. Vegeta's interactions with his family, especially Bulma, feel more prominent than they ever did in Z. We'll come back to this in a different section, but I think it's worth mentioning here as well. The Super manga builds on this with even more compelling moments of growth. Spoiler warning, by the way, skip to this part if you don't want to be spoiled, but during the Moro arc, Vegeta goes out of his way to save a Namekian and vows to protect them, haunted by his past atrocities on Namek. This is one of Vegeta's most powerful redemption arcs since the Buu Saga, showcasing how deeply he regrets his past and his determination to atone for it. It's an incredible character moment in my opinion. Additionally, Vegeta pushes himself in new ways. He trains on Yardrat to learn the forced spirit fission technique, which stands out because it's not just something Vegeta would normally do. Early on, Vegeta relied heavily on his natural talent and innate power, but through his experiences with the Z fighters, he's grown to appreciate the importance of learning and adaptability. Forced spirit fission represents a major shift in Vegeta's approach to fighting. It's calculated, strategic, and shows his willingness to embrace new ideas other than bigger muscles. Finally, Super offers Vegeta a unique path to power. Instead of simply following in Goku's footsteps and inheriting the same transformations, Vegeta begins to carve his own path with forms like Ultra Ego, which aligns more closely with his personality and pride. The divergence allows Vegeta to grow as a fighter while staying true to himself. himself, making his journey feel distinct and meaningful. Through all of these moments, Dragon Ball Super gives us a Vegeta who is not only a warrior, but a mentor, a father, a husband, and someone striving for redemption. It's a well-rounded portrayal that builds on his legacy in ways that feel both natural and impactful. In GT, one of Vegeta's standout developments is the humanization of his character. Many of the series' most powerful and memorable moments, for me, come from how grounded and relatable he feels. I mean, there's even a scene where he's casually driving his car after taking his daughter shopping. A simple, everyday moment that makes Vegeta feel more down to earth than we've ever seen. It's a stark contrast to the proud Saiyan prince we first met, showing just how much his life on Earth has shaped him. Even his appearance reflects this shift. In GT, Vegeta dresses more like an Earthling than ever before, which is consistent with the human outfit he wore at the end of Z. Vegeta's look in GT, complete with his mustache, albeit briefly, feels like a playful nod to his comfort in his Earthling identity, something that would have been unimaginable in his Z days. Another significant aspect of Vegeta's development in GT is his maturity. We see it several times in the series, most notably when, instead of resisting or throwing a fit about fusion, as we've seen in the past, he's the one to suggest it. This is a massive step for Vegeta that Super has yet to do. We also see a more introspective side of Vegeta in GT. He's no longer driven by his rivalry with Goku in the same way. Instead, he seems at peace with who he is and where he stands, focusing more on protecting his loved ones and Earth. One of the best examples of this comes during the battle with Omega Shenron. Vegeta makes the selfless decision to urge the group to retreat and find a way to defeat Omega another day. Despite knowing he doesn't stand a chance against the Shadow Dragon, he chooses to fight anyway, pouring everything he has into buying time. It's a poignant moment that showcases Vegeta's willingness to sacrifice himself, not out of pride or rivalry, but out of hope that the next generation can succeed where he and Goku might fail. This marks a significant evolution for Vegeta, showing his growth as a leader and protector who values the future over his own life. So who do I think comes out on top in this section? Honestly, it's a tough call. Super introduces a lot of fresh ideas for Vegeta's character, taking him into new territory we haven't seen before in the franchise. Meanwhile, GT gives us a side of Vegeta that's familiar, but it fully embraces and explores that humanity in a way that feels deeply emotional and satisfying. I think what makes GT Vegeta so beloved is how it completes his journey toward becoming a genuinely good person. For me, I think I lean slightly towards Super. While Super may not be as emotionally resonant as GT, it offers a lot of the same development GT does, plus a bit more in terms of new ideas and character growth. That said, both series handle his character growth exceptionally well in their own ways. If we're strictly talking about the anime though, I'd have to give the edge to GT. For the consistency section, we're looking at how well Vegeta's portrayal aligns with the trajectory set for him in Dragon Ball Z. Since GT picks up after the end of Z, Vegeta has already settled into a more peaceful existence, having embraced his life on Earth and found balance. Meanwhile, Super begins just a few years after the Buu saga, when Vegeta is still navigating how to balance training and family life, something consistent with his character, as Vegeta always trains during times of peace. One key moment to consider is Vegeta's iconic "You are number one" speech in Z, where he accepts Goku as the superior warrior and seemingly lets go of their rivalry. Some people argue that Super undermines this moment by reigniting their competition. While there's some truth to this, I think there's context behind it. Early in Super, the rivalry seems to have mostly faded, with Vegeta and Goku largely doing their own thing. However, when King Kai informs Vegeta that Goku lost to Beerus, his shocked reaction suggests that Vegeta still views Goku as the best. The rivalry truly ignites when Whis introduces his training, giving Vegeta a new opportunity to surpass Goku. From there, much of Super focuses on the two pushing each other, sometimes surpassing or matching one another. So, to me, Super does kind of acknowledge the speech, but it's mostly an afterthought to keep the series going and exciting. However, I do think his motivation to surpass Goku does change the further you get into Super. In contrast, GT presents a Vegeta who is fully moved past the rivalry. Like I said before, he's content with who he is and focuses more on his family while occasionally training. His maturity and peace with his place in life align perfectly with the Vegeta we see at the end of Z. This lack of rivalry feels natural for his character progression and allows GT to explore other aspects of his personality without relying on competition with Goku. For me, the winner of this section is GT, kind of easily here. For the relationship section, I'm looking at how are his connections with other characters explored. Do we see new sides of Vegeta through these interactions? When it comes to Vegeta's relationships, both Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT give us new perspectives, but in very different ways. In Super, one of the standout relationships is with his family, which gets a lot more attention connection compared to Z. Vegeta's bond with Bulma is deeper and more affectionate than ever. Moments like him staying behind during Bulma's pregnancy, despite being invited to train with Whis, show just how much he values his family now. This is a big deal for a character who early in Z barely acknowledged his loved ones. We also see his protective side when Beerus slaps Bulma. Vegeta loses all composure and launches into a blind rage, putting aside even his fear of Beerus. Then there's his relationship with his children. In Z, Vegeta's role as a father was distant and awkward at best. In Super, we see him stepping up, especially with his daughter, where he shows a softer, more caring side. While his relationship with Trunks still leans on training and competition, there are sweet moments too, like Vegeta taking Trunks to the amusement park after promising him for so long. And let's not forget Vegeta's relationship with Beerus and Whis. I feel like this is overlooked, but becoming a student under them marks, I believe, the first time Vegeta has ever trained under someone else. And of course, there's his dynamic with Kaba, which I've touched on earlier, but it really shows how far Vegeta has come to be able to mentor someone like Kaba. In GT, Vegeta's relationships take a different direction. His bond with his family is equally heartfelt but more grounded. Again, one of the most memorable scenes is when he drives his daughter around after a shopping trip. It's such a relatable human moment that shows how much Vegeta has settled into his role as a father. His dynamic with Bulma is more subdued in GT, but there's a sense of mutual respect and understanding between them that feels earned after all they've been through. What's interesting about GT is how Vegeta's relationship with Goku feels more like a genuine friendship than it ever has in the franchise. There's a sense of camaraderie between them that wasn't as prominent in earlier series. They've both grown as individuals, and you can see that in how they interact. There's less tension and more understanding, which makes their dynamic feel more mature and grounded. I think both series do a solid job of exploring Vegeta's relationships, but to me, Super offers more depth and variety for the character. The last section is all about impactful moments, the kind of scenes Dragon Ball Z is famous for. Vegeta's story in Z is packed with unforgettable moments that shaped him, from his emotional death at the hands of Frieza to his final atonement in the Buu saga. And of course, there's his "You are number one" speech, where he finally acknowledges Goku as the better warrior. These moments didn't just define Vegeta, they made him one of the franchise's most iconic characters. In Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta continues to deliver some amazing character-driven moments. Who can forget his explosive rage when Beerus slapped Bulma? Then there's his brutal attack on Goku Black, fueled by both anger and Saiyan pride, and that epic final flash during the Tournament of Power, complete with his pride speech that captured everything Vegeta stands for. His speech to Goku about trespassing into the god's domain also stands out, where he puts all of his trust into Goku to fulfill his own promise. The manga adds even more depth. There's his emotional atonement during the Moro saga, where he confronts his guilt for what he did to the Namekians, a moment that ties back to his darkest sins and shows how far he's come. And of course, his ultra ego transformation is a big deal. GT, on the other hand, doesn't really give Vegeta as many defining moments. Since the spotlight is mostly on Goku, Vegeta's screen time is more limited. Still, there are some standout scenes. His transformation into Super Saiyan 4 is undeniably cool, and he even mentions to fuse for a change. His decision to buy time for everyone to escape Earth is another great moment. It's selfless and shows how much he's grown as a protector. Even smaller scenes like this exchange.
It's simple. If you want good things to happen in your life, you have to be good.
Die! I would listen to him if I were you. More often than not, the things Kakarot says come to pass. But I know that it's going to take more than talk to change your mind. I had to learn the hard way myself.
All have a subtle power that fans of his character can appreciate. However, despite these highlights, GT doesn't offer Vegeta enough screen time or narrative focus to compete in this category. While his moments are impactful when they do occur, Dragon Ball Super is brimming with defining moments that push his character forward. For me, Super clearly takes this round. So, with the score sitting at 3-1 in favor of Dragon Ball Super, it's safe to say that I feel Super did the most justice to Vegeta's character. Of course, I could be off base, and my conclusion might not be the most popular opinion. So, to get a clearer picture, I reached out to my community to see what you all thought, asking which series handled Vegeta's character better. The majority of you agreed that Dragon Ball Super gave Vegeta the more satisfying and complete character arc. So, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my video comparing Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Abridged. See you there!